baby, listen to the speaker. No matter what, just say the word. I'm loving all I see.
Perswayable. Hi. What's going on, everybody? So, welcome back to Monday Questions. So, Monday Questions, I'm going to do a better job at answering all the questions that everybody has. When I first started doing Monday Questions, I didn't think that it would actually catch fire. But I realized that there's so many things that are constantly changing with the game. There are so many questions that people have for me that I realized that it's better to do Monday Questions because I can't do individual videos all the time on all of the changes that occur. I don't have the time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do Monday Questions every single week going forward. Today this is going to be mostly about Identity 5. You can go on my Discord. I'll put a link in the bottom. And that's where you can ask me the questions, and I'll make sure that I do this every Monday. I can also include questions outside of Identity 5 if you have questions about my personal life or things outside of Identity 5. And then what I'll do is I can do videos and I'll break it in half. I'll be like, all right, the first half is Identity 5, second half is other questions. I'll try to keep it nice and organized so people can stay up to date. So let's get some of the questions, right, that you guys have all been asking me that I haven't been able to answer for a while. So the number one question, how do you counter spider? So I do plan on making a video on this, right? I have a whole bunch of video ideas that I'm working with all at the same time. I have been playing a lot of Dead by Daylight, I'm not going to lie, so I've been kind of focused in there a little bit. Let's talk about Spider Queen. Let's talk about her buffs, right? So her buffs make it so she can just lay down a trap, run through it, and she gains this really, really crazy movement speed. She can also shoot a web out, do some damage, yada, yada, yada. We know this. So how do we counter her? The most important thing with Spider Queen is early game. You have to beat Spider Queen early game. That is the key, right? I'm going to give you more useful information, so bear with me. The problem is that survivors are not adapting. They're not adapting. They're sticking to the old system that worked. They're sticking to my old character tier list. They're sticking to what all of the top players and the top Chinese players used to play, right? You need to get away from that. You need to ask yourself, which characters are best going against Spider early game? Now, for those who don't know, I work very closely with Blue Racecar now. He's number 1, number 2 hunter overall in the U.S., and I work with a few people. It's important, like in the medical field or in any sort of field, you learn that working with other people of other professions makes it better for the patient, right? So if I have a patient, I work with a speech-language pathologist, a physical therapist, a physician, a nurse practitioner. I work with the nurses, even the CNAs. They're very important as well. So we work with everybody, right? And that's best for the patient. So when it comes to these sorts of guides, you need to work with as many people as possible. So with Spider Queen, so I've been working with Blue Racecar. The thing with Spider Queen is that people, you need to start playing characters that can kite her well. So for instance, why are none of you using the Dancer? The Dancer is one of the biggest counters to Spider Queen. In fact, the Dancer is one of the biggest counters to every single hunter. Now I know what you're going to say. Well, Perswayable, she has a 10% debuff. That is true. That is very true. She does. And that technically makes the game a little bit longer, right? But the thing with the Dancer is that I faced Blue Racecar one-on-one and every single time. Well, in the beginning, the first 2 matches, he was able to get me in about 1 minute and 15 seconds, give or take, from the beginning of the match. That's not kiting, right? But when I was a little rusty with her. When I actually started using her, though, I wasn't messing up her skills and stuff. I was able to kite normally for between 70 to 90 seconds. But he's an amazing hunter, right? So the problem is right now is that people aren't thinking outside the box. No pun intended with the Dancer box. The Dancer is a hard counter to the Spider Queen. So you need to pick characters that can kite well against her, okay? You can use perfumers. You can use dancers. I guess you could use a forward if you're really good, but there's a gamble with that. And then having a coordinator is very good as well because there's perseverance on the rocket chair. So now you might be asking, why am I not suggesting Mercenary? Mercenary is actually, he's a pretty cool character. We're starting to see him played more in the Chinese servers. However, he still has a 25% debuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't use the mercenary, but what happens is that we're so used to Russian ciphers. We're so used to just having this normal team, and we just go right after the ciphers, right? You got to be careful now. You got to be careful with the mechanic. You got to be careful with all those characters because these hunters are getting better and they're getting stronger, so it's easier to kill you. And a lot of survivors, they're upset about that because they've grown so comfortable being able to, 5 cipher kite with a mechanic. I mean, it's just unnatural. You should feel worried about picking a mechanic. Right now, mechanic is one of the best characters in the game. This is before the hunter buff, because I could use a mechanic and still 3-4 cipher kite you, because a clown you still wouldn't capture. You still wouldn't get me. So, with that being said, now it's significantly more difficult. So how you counter Spider Queen, like I said, you have to beat her early game. And how you beat her early game is choosing characters that can beat Spider Queen early game and being able to kite. Her kiting is a little bit different now as well. You don't really want to stay in the same area. You don't want to stay in the same area. You really want to try to put that distance between you and them. And it's really up to your team to communicate. Use the in-chat communication, so when somebody is after you, you can tell your team so they can really get, convene on those machines. All right. But the key to beating Spider Queen is early game. If you are a lower or mid tier, that's going to be very difficult because a lot of people are still learning how to kite, which means that what you need to do is you need to come to my Discord and find people to play with, or go to Identity 5's main Discord and find people to play. But if you're asking, to cut this short, because I've gone way too far in one question, we're already like 6 minutes in, all right, is you counter Spider Queen by choosing different characters. So you got to choose characters that can all hold their own weight against her early game. Perfumer you should be able to do. All right, if you're dying too early as Perfumer, then it's because you don't know how to use Perfumer yet. You're not using her good enough. All right, Dancer is a really good counter to Spider Queen. I can do a guide on that if you guys want to see me do that. I gotta ask permission to Blue Race Car if I can use the footage, and I can show you how I go against Blue Race Car one-on-one with Dancer. And even he said it. Dancer is a hard counter. When I was facing Blue Race Car, he's like, these boxes are killing me. You're taking way too much time. That's what I like about Blue Race Cars. He doesn't have an ego. He looks at the information objectively. One day I'm probably going to give that guy a job reference as an OT. I love that kid. All right, so you need to start thinking of different characters that can hold their own weight. The old style of just going after the ciphers as fast as possible may not work anymore, and that's why you're starting to see Chinese players starting to use mercenary more, starting to use other characters that can hold their weight. If you have a mercenary, a coordinator, and a dancer, and the Spider Queen is going to have a negative consequence for going after either one of you. A dancer should be able to counter a Spider Queen easily. A Perfumer should be able to counter a Spider Queen easily. And if they go after the coordinator has so much perseverance on the rocket chair that if the Spider Queen decides to camp, she's going to probably lose the match. Right? It really comes down to your fourth player as to who you want to choose. You can take a gamble and go with Mind's Eye or Mechanic. I'm kind of starting to wonder if Mind's Eye is starting to become more important because so many people are dying from Spider Queen that it's more and more difficult to play Mechanic. Mechanic was good when we could all kite these hunters, but people are going down a lot faster now because these hunters are getting stronger. But to give you the idea, the basic premise of the Spider Queen, you have to start rethinking some of these characters. Start choosing characters. Yeah, you may take a sacrifice to your decode speed, but if it's the difference between dying in 30 seconds versus dying in 75 seconds, at least you put your team in a competitive advantage. And at that point, even as a dancer, if they go after you, you can buy your team enough time early game. So that's how you are going to beat her. Start rethinking about... I'm telling you, I don't have a problem against Spider Queen. I genuinely don't. So you got to work on your kiting. Your tight kiting's not going to be the same. You can tight kite with a dancer, right? You put the blue box in between a pallet, and now that person is never going to be able to hit you. They either have to take down the box. If they take down the box, you can move to a next location, or you can put down another box and stay in the same location. Use 3 slow boxes. You might be like, well, why are you using all your boxes? Doesn't matter. If you're buying your team a minute and a half, 2 minutes in early game, you're going to win the match. So that's how you have to beat Spider Queen. And also use Tide Turne, but that's a different story. So you remember, this is just the basic questions and answers. I'll come out with more in-depth details, all right? So 2 versus 8 tier list. I'll do it eventually. I think that in a 1 versus 4 tier list, there's a lot of changes that are going on right now, so I can't really do it. Because the hunters have been just buffed, it's starting to reshape what I just said in question 1. You have to start rethinking about how some of these hunters and survivors are going to be played, right? What we used to play might not be working now. That's why so many people are struggling against the Spider Queen. They're not picking stronger characters at their kiting game because they're worried about their decode hits, which was true back in the day. But now we got to start wondering, hey, maybe we need to use these characters. How to counter photographer. Okay. So again, we can do a video on this eventually, but how you counter photographer. You gotta avoid the ciphers where the photography photo world cameras are close to. There's some ciphers where the photo world, the photo whatever, is right next to the machine. I literally can come out and just kill you. So you gotta be careful about those. If you also are decoding, you have to make a conscious choice. What do you do? Do you cipher rush it and try to get the ciphers down, or do you slow it down and try to survive? And what I mean by that is that a lot of us, we try to get the ciphers down as soon as possible. And there's a good reason for that as well. But sometimes it might be better to just take a second, get off of it, go into the photo world real quick and check your surroundings. You don't got a heartbeat, go back, start decoding again. The problem with that method, though, is that it slows down your decoding. However, it prevents any sort of terror shock because you have vision around you in both photo world and regular world. And I'm talking about the ciphers that are really close. Early game, you can just choose ciphers that aren't close to the photo to a photograph. All right. So that's how you're going to counter him. If you're not, first of all, you have to hide in the beginning, right? Duck, hide. All right. So back onto what we were talking about. If you're by a cipher that is close to the photo world, don't cipher rush. You will probably die. Don't take the gamble. Take time, check, go back, decode. I wouldn't cipher rush. You are taking a gamble unless you know that that photographer is going after somebody, right? If you know that the photographer is actively going after somebody, if you have communication, then you can cipher rush. But if you don't have that same communication, sometimes it's better to stop, look around you, go back and decode. Sure, you're not going to get that cipher machine down as fast. But if everybody's doing it, nobody's really dying. That's one method. However, it slows down. So there's a consequence, right? In this game, there's consequences for your actions, right? That's why we have different strategies. The other strategy is to cipher rush it. That's really the only way to counter him. And especially if you see the photographer. I'm coming out with a photographer guide, which is going to make it difficult for a lot of you to counter him. So when I come out with a photographer guide, then I'll tell you how to counter that photographer guide. All right. Will you try another game? Yes, I've been playing Dead by Daylight. I've only been playing Dead by Daylight for a week, and I'm already rank 10 as a survivor, which is pretty cool. Actually, I think I dipped down a little bit because of my computer. I think I'm like only rank 12 right now, but I'm about rank 10. The hardest thing in Dead by Daylight is just learning the maps. I don't know where things are, so it's harder for me to do my job. And just for reference, for those who are wondering, I got self-care. I think Sprint Burst is the second most important perk in the entire game, so I've gone with Sprint Burst. And now I'm going to work on Decisive Strike with Laurie Strode. I'm already like level 20 with her. So I already got Claudette, and I already have... So I got Claudette to 40, and then I got Meg to 35. So I already got their teachables, because that's where Sprint Burst is teachable at 35. So now I'm working on Decisive Strike. And then the last one, I don't know. I kind of like Will Make It. I think it is where you pull them down. You can, you know... And I also like Urban Evasion with Nia, so I might go with that as well. Obviously, Borrowed Time with the old dude is pretty cool, so we'll see what I'm doing there. Wuchang or photographer? So this is, you're asking me for my personal preference. I actually like photographer more than Wuchang. I know that Wuchang was used in the recent Chinese tournament, but a lot of them are computer players. I'm not a computer player, I'm a mobile player, and I like that photographer can slow the game down. I like that photographer, you can hit somebody once in the photo world and now they're a one-shot for the rest of the game. There's a lot of flexibility. I think that photographer is the most dynamic character in the game. He has the most flexibility, so many different styles to play with him, and that's what makes him unpredictable. So I would choose that. Wuchang, I never have difficulty kiting a Wuchang. It doesn't mean that Wuchang users aren't good. It just means that there is a cap to the player's tight kiting potential. I mean, he is good. He's got a long range with white, but I mean, there's so many palettes, so many easy ways to kite him. When I go against a Wuchang, I'm never worried. Let me put it that way. Can you judge my gameplay? I would love to judge people's gameplay. I'll come out with a method to figure out how we can do that best. I got a battery notification. Story of my life. I would love to judge people's gameplay. It'll be better once I get a new computer. I can't do any streaming. I don't have a computer, so we're trying to figure a way out to raise funds so I can get a computer. Because once I can get a computer, then I can go back to streaming every night. But my computer, it randomly crashes and stuff, so that's why I'm not streaming. So yeah, we'll find a way out. We'll find a way out to do that for sure. Hell Ember rating. I still give Hell Ember maybe a C rating. I don't even think I consider him a B tier character. I really don't. He's so easy to beat. Early game, he is so easy to beat. For top tier survivors, I mean, it's very difficult for a Hell Ember to get you. Unless the top survivors are screwing up, right? At least with Feaster, once he's fed, he's dangerous because of his curse mark, even in 2 versus 8. Whereas Hell Ember, yeah, you can use your puppets and you can have them... I think Feaster's more dangerous than Hell Ember. So Hell Ember would be comfortably between C and B, nothing higher. I wouldn't consider him A. I think for lower tiers, he might be considered A, right? Because he's difficult, you're still learning how to kite. It's easier to let the Hell Ember hit you. So I would have to keep that in mind. I just don't consider him dangerous. Is Geisha viable? So the problem with Geisha is still good. It's just that she's easy to beat now. A lot of people have learned how to skill check her dash. Cypher Russian is a real big problem in this game. Cyphers go down way too fast. You have no real way to slow down the game. You don't have any way to really defensively protect your chair like you do with the Spider Queen, or you can't slow the game down like I just said, like you can with Photographer. So is she good? I mean, you know, she's got her strengths. But she's nowhere near as dangerous as where she was when she first came out 2 seasons ago. So I'd still prefer Spider Queen or Photographer and Clown over Geisha any day. Most common error to kiting. The most common error to kiting is thinking that there's only one way to kite. And the most common error with kiting is people not adapting their kiting strategies against a hunter. Right? I call it kiting chess. I'll do a video on this. I'm going to write this down. I want to do kiting chess. All I'm going to say is that there's a thing called kiting chess. You will become a better kiter when you learn it. That is going to be a video that I literally need to do this week. I promise you that video is called Kiting Chess, and I'm going to explain the complexity of kiting and how you can change as a kiter. That's the biggest gamble. And how you have to change your kiting strategy as you're kiting. I'll do a video on that. That's what will separate you being a pro versus not. Best combo for 2 versus 8 hunters. I'm not sure if there's a best combo, but it depends on who you're facing. If you're facing against, so the best combo for hunters, or rather survivors, is most likely 6 doctors and 2 forwards, or 7 doctors and 1 forward. Usually, you can go either way, because usually you have these doctors who cipher rush. So if you play like real competitively, if that's a thing in 2 versus 8, you need to start killing right away. You can. I personally like. I personally. Well, it depends on who you play. Right now, it would probably be. It's hard to answer. You know, Geisha and Wuchang have so much mobility. They have so much mobility in the game, and so does Spider Queen, but not as much as Wuchang. What's really good about Wuchang is the ability for him to really move around the map. And so if you have like a Wuchang and a Geisha, that Wuchang can really defend all of those chairs, because he pretty much has a free teleport with his umbrella. So you can get that first kill, both of you move out, get your doom shocks, keep putting down. And then what you have is you have your Wuchang using his umbrella to really guard all of the chairs while you have somebody else going out for the kill. And I think people underestimate that ability. But if I were to answer this as objectively as possible, I mean, right now Spider Queen is really good. The problem is that Spider Queen, she's good in 1 versus 4, but she has web issues. She eventually has web issues. And when you face top tier survivors, they'll take down your webs. If I'm a forward, I will follow you and just take down all your webs. I'll just keep following you and take down your webs. So you have no webs on the map. I will harass you the entire game as a forward. All right, that's the anti-spider strategy. In 2 versus 8. As a forward, I will follow you, and I will keep stunning you, and I will literally just keep running into your webs and taking them down myself. So, There's a strategy. I don't know if I could answer that question. I think Geisha is good. I do very well with Geisha, especially as she levels up. I mean, the best results that I've had so far is a Geisha and a Wuchang, but that doesn't mean that they're the best. It comes down to the players and what they're best with. Because of that mobility. I don't think I can answer that question. I want you guys to tell me what you think. Seer's character rating. So Seer will probably be between A and S tier, probably an S tier. Because in tournament play, he's really going to have that owl ability. He's easy to kill against a spider. He can absorb one hit, and then his Volton starts to occur where he gets debuffed. But in a high tier team, he can really be utilized for that rescue, which I think is pretty cool. But Spider Queen's web shot does damage, so I mean against a Spider Queen, he's really not that good. So I don't know where his character rating will be. Because right now in tier 5s and above, you can only use one character per team, excuse me. You know, it's going to make him more viable. So we'll see. I don't really know yet. We thought that he was going to be S tier. He's new, but we'll see. I think he's still useful, but I want to see how the players adapt. Is Identity 5 dying? So there's a big question on this one about Identity 5 and, you know, what are the devs doing and all this stuff. So the devs are working very hard to... So remember, when a game first starts, it's always usually going to have exponential growth, right? Or growth that's not exponential. It's ridiculous growth. And eventually, it's going to, you know, kind of even out, right? We saw this with Pokemon Go when Pokemon Go first came out. I mean, at one point, 25% of all in-app purchases on the mobile market occurred in Pokemon Go. So what happened with Pokemon Go is that that's not sustainable, right? That's crazy growth. It blew up, and then eventually it's going to go down because it evens out, right? That's not sustainable. You're not going to be, right? So when it started to go down, you had all these media websites saying, oh, Pokemon Go is dying, Pokemon Go is dying. It's not that it was dying. It was that it was finally evening off because the beginning was just too big. Identity 5 has over 120 million downloads, so you have to ask your question. I mean, the development team hasn't given me any statistics, right? But there's a difference in question as to whether something's dying or if whether something is kind of evening out, right? And I think the game is kind of evening out. I think the Chinese version is much more competitive. I think the global version is much more casual. So when we ask those questions, is the game dying out? The difference is that in the Chinese version, you have a bunch of higher tier players. You have, you know, 500 top tier players in that game. And over here, you only have like 50. So I don't think the game is, it might, I can't answer that question, right? I don't have the statistics, right? I'm a man of research, I'm a man of academia, so I'm not just going to tell you, oh yeah, the game's dying or not dying. Until I see statistics, I don't know. What I will tell you though is that the devs, they are genuinely working hard to try to figure out how to balance the game out. I mean, on one hand, you have survivors who are complaining that the hunters are overpowered, and then you have a lot of high tiers who are saying that the survivors are overpowered and too many of them run Tide Turner. But then when you look at the stats, even on the Chinese version, you see that a lot of the hunters have better win rates sometimes than the survivors do. Although in the U.S., the hunters are doing much better than the Chinese version, and that's probably because the Chinese survivors are better, because they give a harder time to the Chinese hunters. So it's interesting. But I don't think Identity 5. I'm not sure if it's dying or if it's evening off. There's no way anybody can answer that question. Now we can use our personal experiences. We call that anecdotal experience, but anecdotal experiences mean nothing, right? I shouldn't say they mean nothing, but they mean nothing in terms of a broad scale. And research, right? If I want to do research on bipolar disorder and the likelihood of self-harm, as an example, you know, I can't just ask one person, hey, do you self-harm? That's anecdotal. That's about them. What we need to do is we need to do a big thing. We need to ask a whole bunch of people. And we need to measure it using statistics and doing the best that we can to make sure there are no confounding variables. And, yeah. So until I have statistics, I can't answer that question. Is there going to be a trade system for skins? I don't think so, but that's for the development team to answer. Bootcamp. Yes, I would love to do Bootcamp, but my computer is dead, right? My computer doesn't really work. So that's the only reason why I'm not doing live streams right now. So me and my staff are getting together. We're trying to figure out how to get a new computer. I don't really know how to go about that yet. So trying to figure that out. Do I play the Chinese version? No, I do not. My ping is too bad. I'm trying to get through these short questions because we're already hitting like 25 minutes on this. Will you be a Survivor main next season? Yo, mama asked me this question. I don't know yet. I really don't know. I kind of like taking a break from the ranking system. I mean, I've already proven myself as a top player in this game, and I felt kind of pressured to only play in rank sessions. And the problem is that rank sessions only occur in those 2-hour intervals, and I can't base my life around a rank session in a video game. You know, there's some times where 8 o'clock rolls by, that's, by the way, Eastern Standard Time, where I'm, like, tired or I kind of want to do something else, and it's like, oh, I have to go rank. So that kind of lost, like, a little bit of happiness. So I'm taking a break. I mean, I'm still playing. I still play every day, but I play a lot more casually. And I have a lot funner time playing casually and just being able to measure stuff, right? A lot of people want to know how to play these characters, and it takes a long time for me to come up with these YouTube videos. It takes a lot of time. You know, I don't just, throw a 3-minute video together that gives you garbage. I really try to show you real gameplay against real players, break it down the best that I can to give you the foundational knowledge that you need. So I don't know what I'm doing next season. Does Tide Turner need nerfing? I don't know. I know a lot of people are starting to run Tide Turner. I'm not sure if Tide Turner needs nerfing or the hunters just need buffing. If you buff the hunters, then you're going to start making characters go left to right again instead of left and down, or rather down and right. Right? I just did a persona build on this, and a lot of people are going down and right because they don't need left because they're so good at kiting. But if you buff hunters like Spider, then you're going to have severe consequences for people who are no longer going left to right. So I think if you make hunters more scary, then you'll make people feel like, all right, I really need to invest in the left wing again. So, but yeah, it is annoying. Having too many Tide Turners is so, I feel like it's broken. I genuinely think that the devs should incorporate where if Tide Turner is activated, every time you hit the person, it's decreased by 5 seconds, other than the first hit. Right now, there's no incentive for me to continue kiting you. It's just 20 seconds. So you should give the hunter a reward for still hitting that character and force that character to continue kiting you like normal. So if you rescue me and I hit you, all right, Tide Turner is still going down normal. But if I hit you again, then it loses 5 seconds. If I hit you again, I lose. So that means that if you're going to use Tide Turner, you actually have to kite me. Instead of you just giving 20 seconds, I should be rewarded for continuously hitting you, especially when that survivor is lazy. So I think that that's how Tide Turner should work. I think that it should be reduced by 5 seconds after the first hit for every other hit. Here's a good question about Lucky Guy versus Magician. What's the difference between Lucky Guy versus Magician? The argument is that Lucky Guy has veteran bonus, he doesn't have a debuff, he can get the Magician wand if he wants it, whereas the Magician, he has the wand, but he has 100% rescue time. But the problem with Lucky Guy is that you actually have to find the wand. You have to spend time trying to find the chest. If you're spotted early game, then that could be a negative, it could be a disadvantage because now you have nothing, and it takes you time to actually find the chest. So you're not decoding as fast as what a magician normally would be. I think it's a good question, though. I think it is a good question that you ask. I'm going to look more into it. Right now, I kind of have brain fog. So I'm going to get back to that question next week. What is the perfect Survivor team? I can't answer that right now. There's too many changes going on. Which hunter is the hardest to kite? Spider Queen, for sure. And the last question is that there's been Mercenary in the Chinese tournaments. That's very interesting. I know that Mercenary is being played. And it comes down to what I just said. We're starting to rethink the chemical makeup of teams. We're starting to rethink what character tier lists are supposed to be now that these hunters are becoming stronger. I think it will be a mistake if the devs nerf the Spider. I think it will be a big mistake. Because it's actually now adding some sort of excitement in the game where it's like, all right, what we used to think worked now doesn't work. So how do we change it? And I think it would be very smart for the devs to allow the survivors time to adapt and change instead of just saying, oh, we can't do it. You're essentially saying that you're so bad at the game that you need to literally change the entire game for your needs, right? That's what survivors are saying right now. Whereas it's like, how about you get, dude, we thought the same thing when Geisha was released. We thought that she was broken, that they needed to nerf her because none of us survivors knew how to survive her. You gave us 2, 3, 4 weeks, now she's not even a danger. I think Spider Queen will always be a danger, but we need to rethink our character. And I think it's important for the survivability of the game. I think it's important that they do this correctly, because now we'll start adding some spice in the game. Oh, you want to play that mercenary? Oh, you want to play that dancer? Well, at least we know that you're a kiting character. You're not going to die early. I'm okay with that. Whereas back in the day, I'd be like, dude, don't play them. We need people who don't have a debuff to their decode. So in evolution and in biology, we learn that the species that adapt the most are the species that survive, and they thrive in survival of the fittest. And I think it's going to be the same thing with the game, in the sense that the people who do well are those who adapt and think outside the box. And that's why I'm trying to work very hard on getting some of these videos out. All right, that's the end of this video. This video is way too long. It's 30 minutes. But I had like 21 questions, and I spent a lot of time on the Spider Queen question. I did my best to answer it. Remember, this is just question and answers. It is not an in-depth guide, okay? With that being said, I'm going to get better at these Monday questions. You guys can go to my Discord. You can ask me any questions. In the future, you can ask me questions outside of Identity 5, and I will answer them. And I'll do a better job at making my answers more concise, more thorough, and more straight to the point, so we're not wasting 30 minutes. Remember, I'm still learning as an individual, as a YouTuber, as a streamer, etc. And yeah, so hey guys, thanks for watching. We got a lot of content coming out, and wait until you see my next Destroying the Hunters episode. I pull off some of the best stuns that I've ever done in my career. Alright guys, I'll check you later. Have a good one now.